Hola, hello friends. My name is Katherine Angulo. I work at the McGrath Institute at the University of Notre Dame. And it's truly an honor for me to be able to spend this time with all of you to talk about our newest generation, our young people in the church. What are their concerns? What are their realities? What are some of the signs that they are showing? So we can be more effective in the way we engage with them about their faith, and most importantly, how we can bring them the message of hope that our faith brings to them into their world, into their realities, and into their challenges of today. So if you are ready to start, I am ready to be with you. I just pay attention. I will be joining you at the end of the session live to answer some questions. As for now, you're gonna be able to enjoy this record presentation. So if you allow me, I'm just gonna share my screen and we are gonna be ready to go. So here we are, guiding in the Cornerstone Catholic Conference, and the topic, meeting the realities of this new generation. So friends, first and foremost, I want us to be aware of what we have experienced during these last 17 months. I know we are all desperate to just move on into the joy of being in the past, where we were able to be free and do all the activities that we wanted to do. But we cannot go that fast. I think it's important to claim that we have had experience a universal reality with this pandemic, where for 17 months, we have been carrying these lifeguard jackets. And what we need to recognize is that our lifeguard jackets are kind of like this color now and a little bit more stretched than normal. And it's because that has been keep us alive. Our faith has kept us alive during all this time, throughout all these struggles and sufferings that we have had so far in the pandemic. And the reality is, friends, that unfortunately we still are in it. We are not done yet. So first and foremost, I want us to be very careful of the way that we treat each other in ministry, but also how we treat the youth and the parishioners in our communities, because although we might look like we're ready to move on, although we might look that we have the desire to have this done and in the back of our minds, we still are in it and we still are dealing with it. And for that reason, I want us just to be very, very careful on the way that we embrace the realities of the church today. So what can you expect from my presentation today? At the beginning of the section, I'm going to share with you some data of what we knew before the pandemic and after the pandemic about the realities of this generation. Then in the second part of our talk, we're going to be talking about some topics that my colleagues and I have called to be necessary, almost indispensable, to cover with the youth now more than ever, to be able to be effective in the ministry that we do with this new generation. And at the end, we're going to be able to dream a little bit and to figure it out where the Holy Spirit is guiding us in our own uniqueness of the communities that we are serving, to be able to be more effective in the ministry that we do. So why is it so important to start with this reality that we are all going through this together and we need to be careful and we are doing the best that we can? Because friends, I have noticed that all of us have embraced this pandemic differently. I was having a conversation with a good friend of mine, a colleague of mine, Christopher Wesley, at the beginning of the pandemic. Remember when you couldn't get haircuts? Well, right after that, after he had his first haircut, I was able to have a communication with him, a conversation with him. And in it, he gave me a very interesting point, because my question to him was very simple. After we did some work, he said to me, Katherine, I don't think I'm doing okay. And I said, what is going on, Christopher? Tell me more about it. And he said, well, Katherine, look at what happened to me. I went to my hairdresser, my barber, sorry. I went to my barber and I just was getting my haircut. And you know how haircuts for guys, they just go very quickly. But this time my haircut took like 35 minutes. And that's because the first question that the barber asked me was, how are you doing? And I told him, I don't feel I'm doing well. I knew he was a Christian man. And for that reason, he told him, I feel like we have been inundated by the plague. And I think that we as a community, we need to repent and ask for forgiveness for God. So then all this about the pandemic is just gonna disappear. And the barber paused for a second and he said, I understand your view. I know what you mean, Christopher, but I see it differently. And he said, you know, you see the plagues in the Old Testament that were experienced in a very different way. It depended if you were an Israelite or if you were an Egyptian. If you were an Egyptian, you understood that the plagues came along as a punishment because of the treatment that they were giving to the Israelites, the people of God. But on the other hand, if you were an Israelite and you were seeing the plagues coming around, then that kind of gave you hope because you knew God was giving you the sign to take you to the desert. So the desert that will take you to the promised land. So just a clarification, I'm not saying by any means that the pandemic is a plague or that it was sent by God. No. What I'm trying to give you an idea here is what he said after that. He said, you know, Catherine, in a sense, we have invited as the Israelite people to go into the desert, to the promised land. And like the Israelites, we didn't know how long it was going to be. We didn't know what we were going to experience, but we knew one thing. We knew that our whole trust needed to be attached to God to be able to make it to the promised land. Friends, I tell this story because I want to ask you from the deepest part of your heart, during this pandemic that we have experienced, which we don't know when it's going to end, which we don't know what we're going to experience, all of us have gone through this, and all of us have had a very different experience about it. But are you in the position to say, I have walked this journey of the pandemic with the trust that no matter what happens, God is with us and God is going to protect us and God is going to carry us to the other side of this pandemic? That's a very strong message that we need to give to this generation, because I have heard it all over the place, especially when I got phone calls in the middle of the pandemic from young people telling me, Catherine, do you think we're going to have a future? Do you think I'm going to make it to college? Do you think I'm going to be able to get married? And they were in despair. And if you really think about it, it's because our young people have never experienced something like this. Well, I'm not young and I haven't experienced something like this either. But I didn't lose my hope because I have experienced other realities in my life that have let me see that through hardship, there is also another side to look after. And that's a message that our young people are not very clear about it and that they are seeking for desperately. And what else than to give them the invitation to say, this is the time more than ever where you have to stand up and follow the journey through the desert, trusting that God is going to take care of you, provide for you, just like he did to the Israelites by sending them the manna and by sending them the messages through Moses so they could understand the message. We know it's not easy. We know 40 years, all the things that happened there. But something that I realized very early with those conversations that I was having with the young people is that as Catholics, we have been very strong on sending the message of the New Testament, which is great. But it's also important to start to balance a little bit with the stories of the Old Testament, so our young people can see what the people of God have gone through and to be able to understand that no matter what is going to approach us, hopefully it's going to be something positive. God is going to be with us. And that's the mentality and the reminder that we need to give that to these new generations. So why I'm sharing with you these messages? Because friends, before the pandemic, we were seeing a significant level of disaffiliation from our young people. But this disaffiliation was not just related to the church. As you can see in this graphic from the research from Gallup, we were seeing that from 1970s to 2019, our young people are just disaffiliating from the big institutions, from the big businesses, the presidency, the news, the Congress, the newspapers, the public schools, the banks. And this disaffiliation also is being presented in the church, any kind of church, any kind of religion. And that's one of the realities that we were embracing prior to the pandemic. Let's learn a little bit more about. You can see here how the confirmation is that the disaffiliation is not just with the church. You also see the nonprofit organizations, the public schools, the big businesses. They have been declining significantly through the last generations of their trust of the institution. And this is very important for us to know. So then when we approach the young church, we let them know that we are first more than an institution, and also we start to address the areas of discomfort or distrust that they have. Now, a very important result that we see through this study is these results, which for me is what is going to give you the perfect idea of what are we dealing with this new generation, especially when the results happen in 2019, before the pandemic. So 69% have 3 or fewer meaningful interactions in a regular day. That is significant that our young people that seem to be so well connected worldwide are telling us that they have 3 or fewer meaningful interactions regularly a day. Nearly 40% of them say that they feel that they have no one to talk to, or that no one that will really know them well. Again, almost half of our young people think that they don't have anyone to talk to or that knows them well. How sad is that? But yet, again, they are extremely busy in their schedules. Then we see in the other statistic that more than 1 in 4 young people have 1 or fewer adults in their lives that they feel that they need to talk to, that they feel that they can talk to. Why I'm highlighting these, friends? Because although we appear to be so connected with so many, and we appear to be so well versatile in knowing what's going on around the world, the fact that our young people are saying that they don't think anyone knows them means a lot. And just pay attention a little bit of how we were working as a church. If you notice recently in the last decade or so, big events were very attractive to our communities. But can we create small dialogues and small communities when we are in those big events? Everything, of course, is in balance. And we know we need big events to inspire us, but also we need that small connection of communities in our parishes, where our young people will know that more than 3 people are there, that they might have 1 person that knows them and understands them, and they feel that they can trust to have a conversation with. Now, this is also to prove, this part of the statistic is to prove that this is not just with the Anglo students or teens that we have in our parishes. This is going all across the different cultures that we have present right now in the Catholic Church. But please pay special attention to the American Indian students, which is a lot higher than even the other ones. And if you can see also the age groups between 13 to 17 and then 18 to 25 to see how that increases, the level of separation increases between those generations. Now, here is another part of that information that is quite interesting, where it says that 83% of young people say that they are more likely to take advice from someone who cares about them. 32% of them say that they are not impressed by job titles. They don't matter to them. And 14% of them say that if someone has an impressive job title, they don't trust them. Why this is important to know for us? Because friends, whenever I'm interacting with volunteers, amazing volunteers of the church from all around the country, usually when they receive the call, the number 1 answer that they gave me was, I don't think I'm ready. I don't think I know enough. I don't think I understand the faith completely. And in reality, what we are seeing from these young people in their desire to have that connection with mentors of faith is that they are telling us that what they are looking is for authenticity. What they are looking is not for big degrees and PhDs, theologians, but they are looking for someone that can speak about the faith, not only with words and the understanding of the faith, but also through actions, so they can get inspired and they can see how they can apply that to their own lives. Again, there is a space for everything, but the everyday conversations that you have with the youth in your parishes every Sunday when you greet them and you say, hi, I'm so glad that you are here. That is what makes the difference for them, and to make them feel called that they are affiliated, that they belong to, or they feel disaffiliated, that they don't belong to the church. Now, I also wanted to share with you this reality that the church is changing. And this is also very clear by the immense growth of diversity in our church. And something I wanted to highlight to you is the reality specifically of the Hispanic community. Although I know in your territory, you also have a significant presence of Asian Pacific communities, I wanted to highlight the Hispanic community just because of the numbers and the significance that that is generating in the United States. So some of the results that we received from the 5th National Encuentro, which happened in 2018, before the pandemic, was that we found out that approximately 13.5 million Hispanic Catholics in the United States are immigrant. But in addition to that, we have 16.6 million US Hispanic born. That is very significant. Why? Because it's the first time that it flips. It's the first time that we have more Hispanic Catholics born in the United States than immigrants itself. And half of them are under the age of 30. So when in many churches, denominations around the nation, they are struggling to have a young, vibrant church, the Hispanic community is bringing a lot of youth and a lot of desire to bring that youthfulness and those gifts into the church. And for that reason, we need to pay attention to it. Yet, although that's very exciting, we also learned from Dr. Hosman Ospino that less than half of the Hispanics in our country self-identify as Catholics, about 47%. As far as memory goes, we have practically taken for granted the assumption that the majority of Hispanics are Catholic, and that's no longer. So what this means that 10 years ago, when they did the research, more than 70% of Hispanics in the United States call themselves Catholic. And in a matter of just 10 years, we have declined to 47% of them. Now, here is another area that research was telling us right before the pandemic, which is that for the first time, 52% of all the students seeking for formation, either in a diocese, in a Catholic institution, in a Catholic university, for faith formation, were Hispanic. Again, for the first time, that number flipped. Now it's 52%. And you can see here in this graphic, the statistics that the Anglo participants is 37%, and then the Africans is 3%, Asian Pacific is 3%, etc. So why is this so significant? Because unfortunately, for many years, we have the misconception that the Hispanic community were not interested to learn more and be informed more about their faith. And now these statistics from CARA are proving us that's no longer true. And for that reason, we need to pay attention to this desire to grow, for this desire of numbers of young people that want to be active part of the church, and now how we can serve them. Friends, if you think about it, if we put together the 13 million point something with the 16 million point something, we're talking about 30 million of Hispanic young people that want to serve in the Catholic Church, that want to build, to solidify the infrastructure of our faith for the years to come. And why I'm bringing this to the table? Because we're talking about peace and justice in this gathering. And part of the justice that we need to be able to provide in our own ministries is the opportunity for our young people, no matter what cultural background they have, if they come from the Filipino community or from the Vietnamese community, or if they come from the African American community or Hispanic community, are we offering them a space to grow in their faith, to form them in their faith, where they feel welcome, where they feel loved, where they feel that they are an important part of it, that they are protagonists of their faith? Friends, I wanted to even make it more directly to you. These are the results from the 5th National Encuentro to your region, about your region. So right now you have 295,000 immigrant Catholic Hispanics in your area. But in addition to that, you have 481,000 Hispanics born in the United States. 34% of the entire Catholics in your region are Hispanic and Latinos. That's how significant this is. The numbers are growing exponentially. And in other regions in the United States, that has almost gone up to 50 or even higher than 50%. Now, let's look at more statistics specific to your region. 47% of Hispanic Latinos were born in the United States. 3% are immigrant Hispanic Latinos. So you can see that the immigrant community in your area is very small. But only 10.1% of them are attending from pre-K to elementary school. And only 7.9% of them are attending the Catholic schools. So why I found that it was important for me to share this information with you? Because friends, let's think about this generation that we saw nationally that they're feeling disaffiliated. In your area in specific, are not able to attend with facility the Catholic education that we hope we can provide for everybody. So if that is not the case, then what kind of programming are we offering in the parishes where they can feel welcome and they can feel solidified by their faith and they can feel attached to our parishes? That is an important area of growth that we need to consider. Why, friends? Why I'm mentioning all this? Because in reality, the Catholic Church for the last decade has become very good. Like, let's say we're talking about archery, very good at building the eras. We have found new styles. We have found new techniques. We have found new materials that make our eras very well. If not, then I invite you to see the rich number of programs that have been built in the last decade in the Catholic Church. We are not missing programs in the Catholic Church. We have plenty of them. If you really put yourself into it and you make it through with all the specifications and trainings from the programs, you are going to be effective in your program. But unfortunately, we have become like the consumeristic community where once one book was done, we were ready to read the next book and do everything again. And we were just jumping from, as a consumeristic mentality, from one to another one. And what I want to tell the church right now, with all these statistics that we have read, is we have plenty of errors. We have plenty of great errors, plenty of great programs. But what we need to concentrate now, especially if we want to connect to this generation, is actually in the skill of archery, in the art of archery. Because this exercise of trying to aim to the hearts of the people that we want to have an encounter with Christ, our young people, this is what we are missing, and this is where we have lost our practice. So then we can aim correctly to the needs and to the ways that they can have that personal encounter. So friends, COVID came. And I don't know about you, but for the first time ever, we experienced the church being closed completely. I never thought we'll experience a Holy Week like the ones that we did in 2020. And unfortunately, because of all the realities that we have experienced, depending on what part of the United States you have your parish closed for so long, the number one question I'm receiving from priests all around the nation right now is, when are they coming back? How are they coming back? Well, friends, yes, we are experiencing challenging times, but we cannot despair through these challenges. In a sense, something I share people is this story that I have. I took this picture. This is a picture of my brother-in-law and my nephew. They needed to change something in the car, and I was laughing so hard because I was the one that took the picture. When I saw them, how they used their technique. The first thing that my brother-in-law did was to take the manual from the car and start to look for instructions. And then my nephew instead just went straight to his cell phone and to YouTube. So guess who got the answer first? My nephew won. So why I share this picture? Because friends, we are in different times in the church. We are at different times in the world. And we are asked to be catechists to our young people and to connect to our new generation. That doesn't mean that the context has changed. The Bible is the same Bible 2,000 years ago and today. The Catholic teachings are the same 2,000 years ago and today. We don't need to change the content. What we need to change is the way that we approach it to our new generations, so they come in an easy way for them to understand, in a practical way where they can engage into the journey of faith formation. And that is where we need to bring all of our creativity and all of our knowledge to be able to be more fruitful. And in this part, as I mentioned, this is the second part, I'm going to share with you the information and content and research that myself and my peers here at McGrath Institute, we have paid a lot of attention in these last 17 months of what is it that our church needs to hear right now, especially from our new generation of young people. And that is number one, because the parishes were closed for so long, and because our young people feel disaffiliated, now more than ever, one of the topics that needs to be a concentration of your time and catechesis with the young people is to be able to explain what is the meaning of a parish. What is the value of a parish? And why? Because they are wondering, if I haven't been there for 17 months and I feel okay, why should I go back? Well, friends, the Catechism teaches that the parish is a stable community. And what makes it stable? It's a stable community because the stability is brought by the body and blood of Christ, by Christ itself, by the sacrificial lamb. That is what it brings stability. Yes, we can have communities in many places. We can have communities in the gym. We can have communities in the hobbies that we have, in the schools that we attend, in the workplaces. But those communities usually are coming together because they share the same idea or the same liking, or because, it offers them some sort of building or community building. But those communities are limited because they are not stable. Why? Because they are gathered by humans. Humans that bring in stability. What do I mean with that? In a gym, usually you are going to sign up to the gym that is closest to your house, that is going to be with people that are most likely like you, that are going to be all interested in the same desire to do exercise, and that you are going to agree to pay a certain amount to be part of this community, and you are going to give your time with certain sense of flexibility, or pay someone to help you train for the exercises, etc. A parish is a different place. A parish is important because you are not a member because you have a card and an ID and a membership that you pay. A parish makes you important because of the person that you gather around, which is Jesus Christ. We don't go to church because the music is pretty. We don't go to church because the homilies from the priest are amazing, or because it's the place that we see our friends. We go to church because we go to have that personal encounter with Christ in the body and blood, in the Eucharist, through the word, the living word of the readings, through the worship that we do with the music, etc. That's a big difference. And that's those examples, just not from a theological point of view, but also from a practical and an emotional point of view. Those are the witness testimony stories that we need to start to share with our people. Why I go to church? I go to church because I go to have that encounter with Christ, with the God that created, that has transformed my life, and has transformed my life because he has revealed himself to me, and there is nothing more than love that has come to me, and I'm returning that love by my presence in the Eucharist. Can we find some parishioners that will be willing to start to share that kind of witness testimony to our young people so they will understand the value of the Eucharist? Can we have some theological sessions where we can explain to them how that is important? Because, friends, we're going to start to have some very serious and difficult questions at the same time. I'm just going to share with you one of the ones that I received during a few months ago. A young girl said to me, Katherine, I'm so proud. I have been going to Mass every Sunday. You should be so proud of me. And I said, wow, that's wonderful. Are you going to your parish? And she said, no. I'm going online. And I said, oh, that's great. And I asked her, why you haven't gone back to your parish? I think your parish is open now. And she said, well, Katherine, I just don't want to go back to the church because then I cannot mute the priest when he's giving the homily. Someone that thought it was doing the right thing and was so proud about it doesn't understand the Eucharist at all, to the point that she just likes it now online because she can mute whatever parts she likes and the parts that she doesn't like. That kind of questions are the questions that are going to start to come to our communities. And we need to be pastoral. We need to be with the mentality of a formator in front of them and share them through the heart, very pastoral with the stories. We need to re-educate them about the value of the Eucharist. Now, when you are part of this stable community, you are expected to also offer something to the community. And that's a very important part of our church. And that investment that you are doing is to make sure that the community is stable itself. Just like when we were little kids and we wanted a pet and we promised our parents that we will take them out for walks and we will pick up after themselves, that kind of responsibility comes to our lives too when we're part of this parish that is stable, which is that we will be present to the other, that we are not going to hide in a big parish where no one is going to know me and I'm not going to tell anyone that I exist, that I'm going to give myself. So the members that I meet of the community, I will be able to support them through their joys, but also through their struggles, to their concerns. And I will be the active member reflecting on what I have seen in the crucifixion of God, in the sacrificial lamb, how I'm going to reproduce the love that have been expressed to me through Jesus Christ into my community members. And because of that, I will help keep the stability of our parish. Because friends, have you thought about this? A parish is a communion of a multi-generational community from different backgrounds, from different ways of thinking, from different realities that come together. And because they are present, they become united by the person that they come to meet, which is Jesus Christ, making us brothers and sisters in Christ. I learned this very quickly when I was in ministry, and I realized no matter how powerful I thought I was as a youth minister, which wasn't at all, I knew I couldn't close the door to anyone. Everyone is welcome. Everyone is welcome to the church and to be part of our ministries. And that's the beauty of our parish life. Now, there is another reality that I found fascinating. I learned through one of my colleagues, Caroline Perkle. She taught me in one of her papers how they have done research about music and how when people sing in a choir, they have done the heartbeat rate of the participants. And it's amazing to see that a choir that's practiced often and sings together, they get to the point where they level the heartbeat. They provide that stability of the heartbeat among all of their singers. Friends, the first sign of affiliation, of disaffiliation of our communities, especially our young people, is, are they singing? Are they singing when they are part of the church? Do they feel that they are invested in? And no matter if they have beautiful voices or not, they want to be part of that worship of their faith. In Act of the Apostles, friends, we have learned that if we want to have this parish life as the apostles, we need to follow 3 steps. We need to learn together, offer formation together. We need to share the bread of life, being in Eucharist together. But we also need to live and experience life together. And these are the 3 areas, the 3 pillars that we need to start to concentrate with our young people that are seeking to belong to this community of disciples of Christ. Are we offering those kind of examples in today's world? Because friends, here is another big reality that we have learned during the pandemic, which is before the pandemic, everywhere I went, DREs and youth ministers will complain to me how parents have no longer been in active in their ministry with their children. And nowadays, what we have learned is that through the pandemic, they have to experience it themselves. So friends, no matter what we do, we need to make sure that whatever we offer our young people, it still involves the parents. Please, I beg you, don't make the mistake to take the parents away from the ministry with the young people again. On the contrary, offer avenues to keep that communication going, to keep those opportunities for them to get involved with you going, because this is going to be critical for the success of a ministry itself. Let's don't waste one of the hard lessons that we have had in the pandemic, wasted away just because we want to go back to what we used to offer. Because friends, should be the gift of our time in the church, that we know others and that we have been known in a meaningful way by others. That's what we need to offer our young church. That's what we need to offer to all our parishioners, that they know others in our community, but that they have been known in a meaningful way in our parishes. Because something that we have learned in this pandemic is we don't have a crisis of activity. We saw how many activities we had, how busy we were before the pandemic. Our true crisis is that we don't have meaningful activities in our life, meaningful activities. So when you are building up the schedule for the year to come and the activities that you are going to be doing with the young people, do not create 1,000 things anymore. We know they are already busy. We have experienced that the busyness is just keep us running, and that's it. It is time to start to develop deep, meaningful gatherings. So they have that feeling that they are known and they have known people deeply in their faith. That's what we need to start to work on. And the most important thing that we can do to start planning in this new year is to ask the simple question to our neighbor: what are you going through? With this pandemic, if you are trying to create a program that is completely parallel to the realities of your community, you are missing the point. This is not just a matter of start the train again and do everything as you have done in the year before. This is the year of slowing down, discerning, and figuring out what is it that your parishioners need to be able to offer that special ministry. Might be a ministry that you have done before, or it might be a new ministry that needs to be developed to be able to satisfy the needs of the new generation. Because the beauty of our church is that we are creating small communities of faith that can be the place in a parish that absorbs and gives the love, absorbs the hardships and gives the love to the members. That's what a parish should be. And that's the message that our members, our new generation, our younger generation should have in mind when they think about parish. That's what I feel the love and the joys of life. But that's when I see how my parish absorbs with me, carries with me, accompanies me through the difficulties of life. So one of the questions I want you to complete in the chat is how do your parishioners currently build meaningful based relationships with teens? And while I finish the conversation, I'm going to ask you to start to type it so I can read it while I'm with you live. And friends, this is a picture that I don't want us to forget. One of the hardest relationships that I have our young people here in the United States is to understand that the Catholic Church is a universal church. And this picture right here was the one moment that we could explain perfectly to our young church what is to be part of the universal church. When Pope Francis, in the Holy Week of 2020, stood up by himself and he took us to Jesus. That's what our faith does. This is our shepherd. This is our Peter. And he guided us through one of the hardest places. My friends, pastors of other faith traditions will come to me and say, we don't have that. And you had it. And we just had to connect to it. And we loved it. That's a gift that they were able to witness at the age group. All of age groups were able to witness. And this is the picture that I hope you keep multiplying to our young people so they remember and they will never forget the value of our universal church, the importance of faith in moments of crisis, and also the beauty of the gift of our Pope in our faith. So friends, before we finish, I wanted to connect to this biblical reading from Hebrews that says, let us hold unwaveringly the hope we profess, for he who promises is faithful. And let us consider how to stir up one another to love and good works, not forgetting to meet together as one are in habit of doing, by encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching. And what I wanted to highlight with this is that we need to keep providing each other that love, and the love that only our faith can bring, not just the love that we hear so popularly in our new culture, but the love that is willing to serve, the love that is willing to be humble and witness, and the love that is willing to accompany the other through the good times and the bad times of life. So here is my final comment. There is a belief from the medieval age where they thought that the lion, when they have the cubs born, the cubs were born kind of asleep or almost kind of dead. Until the third day, the lion will roar so loudly that the cubs woke up into life. They were able to breathe for the first time. Well, friends, we see in St. Catherine of Siena that in one of the hardest moments of the church, she decided to have the courage to go and write to her bishop and say, Bishop, this is the time to roar the good news of the Lord to our community so they don't lose hope and they don't lose the compacts of our faith. So here is my invitation to you, friends. In prayer, I'm going to invite you to discern very deeply with all this information that I have given you. Where do you feel the God is asking you to roar into your parishes? What is the good message that God wants you to roar and to wake up all the members that have been fallen asleep in the midst of the despair that this pandemic has brought to them and to the challenges that we have embraced as a country and as a world in the last couple of months. So my invitation to you is, first of all, to say thank you for everything that you have done for the youth. And second of all, be strong, because they are dying. They are thirsty to hear the good news. And you, my friend, is the one that is going to be able to help them reach that point and reach that encounter and find the fruit of the true love that Jesus Christ is in our lives 2,000 years ago, today, and for the next 2,000 years to go. Thank you so much, friends. And now we'll be ready for some questions.